My dad doesn't buy me food, so I look for a job to eat at 14. But when my stepmother demands that I pay rent, I call the person who leaves them without food. I'm a 14-year-old boy and live with my dad. My parents divorced when I was 9, and my dad won custody. Not that my mom really cared about being with me anyway. In the past 5 years, she hasn't called or visited, not even on my birthday. Looking at it that way, at least my dad is better since he still lets me live with him. But that doesn't change the fact that he's not a good father either. He acts as if I don't exist, spends most of his time away, and never bothers to ask if I need anything. It's been a long time since I've received anything for myself, and I mean basic things like clothes or school expenses. Every day, he comes home late at night, smelling of alcohol, and makes a scene over literally anything. Sometimes it's because the floor isn't clean, the dishes aren't washed, or because I didn't answer fast enough when he called me. Other times, it's something as ridiculous as leaving my shoes near the door or forgetting to turn off a light. I try to be invisible, silent, obedient, and small, hoping that maybe today will be different, but it never is. Most nights, I stay awake listening to him stumbling around the house, slamming doors, mumbling things I don't always understand. I've learned to predict the storm, like a weatherman tracking his mood swings. If I feel one coming, I hide in my room, put on my headphones, and lose myself in music or YouTube videos. It's not much, but it keeps me sane, at least for a while. Lately, things at home have gotten worse. My dad used to at least go grocery shopping occasionally, but now he doesn't even bother. The fridge is empty, the pantry has only a few expired cans. Some nights, the only thing I can eat is an old cookie, if I'm lucky enough to find one hidden in the back of the cabinet. I've learned to survive on leftovers and free school lunch, but that's just one meal a day, and it's not enough. Hunger torments me on weekends when I don't have school to rely on. Desperation led me to start looking for food behind local restaurants. At first, the shame burned inside me like acid, but hunger makes you do things you never thought possible. I quickly learned which places threw out food at the end of the night, half-eaten sandwiches, bread leftovers, and takeout containers. Yes, it's embarrassing, I know, but it keeps me alive. As the days passed, I realized I couldn't keep living like this. What if someone from school saw me digging through the trash for food? I needed some kind of security, so I started looking for a job. After weeks of searching, I finally got a part-time job at a local convenience store. It's not much, just a few hours after school stocking shelves and working the register. The pay is barely above minimum wage, but at least it's something. Now I can eat decent food, bread, milk, even some snacks. It feels good to have that little bit of control over my life, like I finally managed to reclaim something from this chaos. But working after school comes at a price. I'm constantly exhausted, barely keeping up with homework or staying awake in class. I'm falling behind, and the teachers have started asking questions. I lie and tell them everything is fine. Fine, what else can I say? That I have no choice but to work because otherwise I don't eat? No one wants to hear that, and even if they did, what would they do? Then everything changed the day I came home and found a stranger sitting in my living room. She was pretty, with long dark hair and perfectly manicured nails. I could smell her floral perfume from the door, overpowering the familiar damp smell of our house. She looked at me and smiled in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. I didn't know it then, but that was the first time I met Hannah, my dad's new wife. Turns out, while I was working hard just to put food on the table, my father had secretly gotten married without even telling me. He hadn't even mentioned he was dating someone, let alone that he was bringing someone new into our home. When I asked him about it, he just shrugged and said he didn't think it was important, like it was perfectly normal to get married and not tell your only child. He also said he didn't need my permission to make decisions about his life. Within a week, Hannah moved in and started redecorating. She brought all kinds of new furniture and decorations, none of which matched the worn-down look of our house, making the place feel like a messy display of things that didn't belong. Hannah has already taken control of the house, and I can't even touch anything without her permission. She cooks, but only enough for 2 people. I've stopped going to the dining room, especially when I know I'm not welcome there. She even throws away leftovers to make sure there's nothing left for me. The worst part is that my own father doesn't seem to care. The changes didn't stop there. Hannah had opinions about everything, from how I kept my room to how I dressed. Even though I can afford to buy new clothes, she made comments about my hair, saying I should at least try to look presentable, and mocked me every time she saw me coming home from work. Things really went downhill when Hannah found out I was working. She must have noticed since I was coming home late every day after school. Last week, when I got home from the store, she was already waiting for me in the living room, her arms crossed, and her face had that tight, disapproving expression I was already starting to recognize too well. I ignored her and headed straight to my room, but she stopped me. She confronted me at my bedroom door and told me she knew I was working after school. She didn't seem impressed. In fact, she sounded almost offended, like I had done something wrong by not telling her. She told me that since I was making money, I needed to start contributing to the house. I tried to explain that I only made enough to buy food for myself, but she wouldn't listen. She said I was living under her roof, and that meant I had to do my part like everyone else. According to her, it was only fair that I give her half of my paycheck or start paying rent. She said my dad agreed with her. I couldn't believe it. I told her I was just a kid and barely made enough to cover groceries, but she ignored me like it was nothing, saying it wasn't her problem. She added that if I didn't like the rules, I could always leave. When I tried to talk to my dad, hoping he would support me, he just shook his head and said Hannah was right. He told me it was time for me to learn some responsibility and that Hannah was just trying to teach me to grow up. It felt like the ground had fallen out from under me. My own father was taking the side of a woman he'd known for only a few months, and I was being treated like an ungrateful parasite in my own home. After that, things only got worse. Hannah constantly mocks me, calling me a parasite and an inconsiderate son. She calls me selfish, especially when my dad is around, keeps saying I'm putting too much burden on him, and that I should think about him. Dad just looks at me as if he's the victim here, and his sweet wife is his savior. He's been turning his back on me ever since, and although we weren't close before Hannah, it wasn't this bad. At least he didn't treat me like a burden in my own home. It's becoming unbearable. Please tell me what I should do. Should I start paying rent? What am I supposed to do? My situation isn't typical, and I don't know how to handle this. It's not like I can ask a friend for advice.